Hi, and welcome back to Showing Up Whole, the place where we discuss alignment in mind, body, heart, and spirit in every aspect of our lives. And today I want to kind of go a little bit head on, a little bit more evolved than we usually do, because I want to talk about the current frequency of what we're in, which we've been kind of covering a lot over the last few weeks, but more so the frequency of what can be and how living in alignment, living in wholeness, living in flow can actually transform everything and can actually provide even the collective, the world that we live in, a little bit more hope, a little bit more light, and a lot more love. All right. So, I look back at the last few weeks' episodes and I went, we are looking a little bit at the we've been looking at what's been holding you back, what's been feeling like you need to expand upon, or how do you step into life a little bit deeper, or how do you actually deal with the current environment, which is being so intense. We are living in an intense time. Let's be totally honest about that. I am not one who talks about toxic positivity and tells you to go bury your head in the sand. It's important to acknowledge the world around us. Collective energy has its place and it has its influence, and it is not something to pretend doesn't exist. Right now, the collective is very scared. It is very intense. There's a lot of anger and there's a lot of heaviness. So, and I mean, that's just talking broad terms of what's actually occurring. But at the same time, within that, it's really important to claim ourselves. We are being asked to step into our light, as we've been talking about over the last few months, of really making sure we are aligned in ourselves and shining as bright as we can. However, I don't believe we've actually been talking about why, or even more so, the outcomes of that which can be. You know, we are living in times where it can feel like you are powerless, like there is very little you can do. There's a lot of narratives around feeling this overwhelming weight of where the world is standing, and this sense of wondering what our personal individual roles are in this. Over in my group program, we were talking a little bit about the finding the balance in all of this, knowing what's happening in the world that we live in, and yet wondering how to actually keep in alignment and keep in the light and also just get everyday tasks done. So I want to lean into that a little bit because I think it's a really important place to put our attention. What does living in flow truly look like in this current world? What can that transform? What can it change? How does it help? And what does your personal involvement really look like? So I want you to imagine this for a moment. Okay. Let's just invite in the sense of deep alignment. And when I say deep alignment in this type of situation, let's just your nervous system is deeply regulated. The fearful uncertainties that are so often discussed, this sense of intense environment isn't infiltrating your core self. So let's just call in that state of feeling like your boundaries are in place, you're grounded, you're regulated. Take a few deep breaths. And as you listen to this, just look around you. Look around outside your window, or if you're sitting outside, or if you're out for a walk, or if you're out for a drive, just give attention to the world that is actually in balance around you. Look at the trees. Maybe there's a bird flying around. Look at the various people that are walking down the street doing their general business. Look at any plants that are growing. Look at the grass. Perhaps you are in autumn like we are here in the UK. Look at the leaves starting to fall. and actually remember and remind yourself of the balance that is present around you. So take a few deep breaths within this space and allow your whole nervous system just to regulate. You balance. Appreciate being alive. You're here, you are now, you are yourself. All right, so we have this space. This you can feel as you lean into this sense of well-being, you can feel your whole self begin to expand. It's like instead of holding on to all of your energy and holding on tight for the survival ride, waiting for that next shoe to drop, all of a sudden you regulate, you calm. You feel centered, you feel expanded. Maybe you can actually feel your energy just flow out. You'll remember last year we had Prune Harris on this podcast, and she was talking about that energetic boundary of once your core is centered and grounded, once your energy is flowing all the way down through the center of you, then that energy expands out and it creates that energetic boundary. And within that energetic boundary, then things filter through differently. You don't feel the intensity of the world quite so much, and yet you can receive the love, you can receive the positive flow and life energy, you can experience other people's energy, but you've got a little bit of a filtration system. So you're not going to bump up against too much negativity within that. So you're grounded, you're steady, you're stable. You're aligned to who you truly are. And then let's, for the sake of it, let's also throw in some deeper spiritual connections. So just feel the sprinkling in of the universal love flow, however you perceive that to be. Just let it fill you up all the way down to your shoes, past your shoes, through to the ground. Allow it to just fill your whole self up, all the way up through to your head, beyond. Feel yourself filled with light, aligned to your soul self, your core self, who you really are. And breathe deeply. Now, you might say, Christina, you're actually like putting boundaries in place that's actually preventing me from seeing all of the heaviness out in the world. That's, what are we talking about? You said you didn't do toxic positivity. This is filling yourself up for your day. This is where it's like filling your car up with gas. You are preparing yourself. So from that state of preparation, I like to do this in the morning, first thing in the morning, question of actually taking care of your energetic space, taking care of yourself. What happens next? From this state of flow, from this state of alignment, from the state of wholeness, suddenly your energy is open and you're present in love. So a few things happen. Let's say you meet a challenge in your day. This could be a challenging person. This could be you hear some triggering news. This could be you see something that upsets you. Well, immediately you're not in a reacting space. You're in a responding space. So if someone needs help, you're going to be able to provide that help. If someone needs comforting, you're going to be able to provide that comforting. If something is in discord, if there's a conflict, you are going to be able to, from a regulated nervous system space, respond within that conflict. Maybe you'll be able to help people see clearly so that you can diffuse a situation. Maybe you'll be just in perfect alignment to be the helper that was needed. Next, you are actually going to attract, because like attracts like, where attention goes, energy flows. We know simple quantum physics, and which is the law of attraction, that you will start receiving opportunities that match that state of alignment. So you won't feel as triggered, as stressed, or as worried. So you might start actually receiving different practices or different opportunities or different circumstances that match that state of wholeness by practicing at a certain period of time. You're going to start to manifest life that supports the person you came to be. It's law. So you're balanced, you're whole, you're present in challenges, you're present in circumstances. You have an open perspective aligned to love. You have an open perspective aligned to flow. And from that, then you are receiving new opportunities. Things fall into place. Things line up the way that supports you and potentially supports other people who are around you. Why are we talking about this when we're talking about a global state? Because the wonderful thing that also happens, and which I feel is even more of a call to actually doing this work more than ever before, is because from that space of wholeness, you, two things. One, you're radiating out a light out into the dark, out into the chaos, however you want to see it, because you are resonating with love, with connection. You're allowing that divine light to flow through you. You are plugging into all that is. You are resonating with groundedness. Your nervous system is regulated, so you're not residing in fear. You are beaming out a deeper presence of love. And that is resonating out so that other can feel it. Now, the wonderful thing and the second thing that happens when that happens is you are providing a different contrasting energy. And this is why I said we're going to go a little bit more deeper into this because this is the important conversations we need to be having. Everything emits an energy. If you think about what you are currently consuming, it's really interesting because here in the UK, they've started talking about digital IDs, right? And this is the big debate that's happening right now. And I don't want digital IDs. Most people I know don't want digital IDs. There's a lot of components that lead into this conversation, which reminds people of other times. And so within that, as soon as we call that up, when I was first researching this and reading about this and looking at this, the energy of it felt dense and tight. It felt heavy. There's a lot of fear building around this issue. There's a lot of dialogue that then becomes more intense. People are getting angry. There's an energy that contains these issues. And I mean, there's so many different issues around the world that can be filled in for this example. We resonate with the problem. And you can't find a solution from resonating with the problem. Rather, you have to resonate with something else. So our challenge, our mission, our um our our our, our core strength comes from finding the counter energy to whatever's troubling us. And we do that by taking these simple steps. All right, I don't want to seem like I'm all over the map here, so I'm going to take a quick break, have a drink of water, and then let's get a little bit more practical and actually really dive into how we can provide the energy of what we seek. We can become the change we want to see in the world, which quite frankly has always been a slogan, has been on a lot of t-shirts, a lot of posts online, but I'm not sure if we've always fully leaned into what that really looks like. So let's do that. Okay. Okay. So what have we got so far? So far, we have this fact that we are in a chaotic world, we're in a chaotic time, and within that, our focus really matters. And it's really easy to resonate with the chaos. However, if we are committing ourselves to living in flow and wholeness, if we want to show up whole, then how that looks is all of a sudden we are grounding ourselves, we're taking care of our energy, we are taking care of our connection to source energy or spirit or God, however you want to perceive that to be. We are taking the time to anchor our feet to fully ground. And in that calm, aligned space, we not only create energetic boundaries for ourselves, so therefore then we can contain our own personal space, but we are providing light out into the world, and we're providing a different tone, a tone of connection, a tone of spiritual alignment, a tone of just regulated nervous systems, of anchoring, of stability in a chaotic storm. We often want to feel like we're helping, and often we can feel helpless. And yet often we just want to feel helped. So within actual wholeness, within actually working with that sense of alignment, we're getting all three. We can't feel helpless because we're actually doing something. We can't, we can help because we're shining out light and providing for the world itself. And third, we're also being helped. And we're being helped because we are plugging in to spiritual energy. We are actually asking. So whether it's angels, spirit guides, God, how ancestors, whatever you connect with, that is part of your wholeness. And that is what you're letting in. So this frequency is a really strong frequency. It's really important to be doing this work. This is not a time to kind of just have this as a hobby. This is like full-time commitment. And I mentioned this on my YouTube channel the other day, and someone said, well, you know what, that's nice, but I'm working and I'm trying to make sure I can have food to eat. This does not take time. This takes commitment and focus, and is what we actually all need to be doing right now. So it's a question of finding a morning practice, plugging in, making sure that you're saying to your angels, your guides, your source, your ancestors, your God, whatever you perceive that as, of, okay, let it in. I let love in. I allow it to flow within me. And focus on your feet and make sure you're anchored, make sure you're grounded, connect, and allow that light to radiate out from you. That's what it takes. That's it. And then whenever you start to feel yourself get caught up in that triggered state of getting into the fear narrative or feeling your whole self start to cave in, that constricted space, then it's a question of replug in, contact your source energy, contact your team, whatever you connect to, realign, shine light out. This is the cycle we need to get used to. And we forget. We do forget. Neural pathways are, they are. Our brains are wired for that fear narrative. Our brains are wired to see what's not working because it needs to survive. And that's how this works. So we will get triggered, we will forget. So there's a couple of practical things we can provide our brains to help them remember. Two powerful steps we can do. First of all, train yourself to start noticing what's working. What is working? We have so many examples of what's not working in our lives. You know, media loves to do that. They will always provide the story that's the most triggering, the most upsetting, the most scary. It's really important to guide things over to what is working. There's so many stories of incredible hope and change and shifts in the narrative that often get buried. You know, even when you take how we have a lot of examples these days of change happening because a group of people get together, and that there's a power in the people now that, quite frankly, we've never seen before. That works. We have so many stories of energy and aligning that energy and directing light energy out into the world as working. Everything from meditations and group meditations affecting the very chemical functioning, like the hormonal shifts and changes within groups of people. We're seeing peace come from group meditations, just in general conflicts around themselves. We also are seeing so many different shifts happening within uh, the world of various towns and cities. People no, we have the scientific background that shows and the data that shows that focus matters. So we know that. We know this works. The other thing to look out for, and I mentioned this the other day in my group program where I said, Mr. Rogers, Fred Rogers, deep hero of mine, always has been, always will be. Thank you, Mr. Rogers. He once said after 9/11, he said, make sure you keep an eye on the helpers. Look for the helpers in any crisis. Always be aware of the helpers. It's a kid show that he said this on, and yet many people weren't actually talking or noticing the power of that message. Why look for the helpers? Want to know why look for the helpers? Because where attention goes, energy flows. And when you look for the helpers, as Fred Rogers says, then your energy and all your attention is going towards their energy and their intention. So you are adding fuel, you're adding light, you're adding power to their help, which is increasing light out into the world. When we look at the people who we are upset with, when we look at the perpetrators, when we look at the people who are doing horrible, horrible things, we are actually giving them our attention. And where attention goes, energy flows. So we have it within ourselves, our own personal power, to put attention on what's working and on the helpers in our world. It's two very, very big things that will shift a lot of this energy. So I feel kind of like this is like a manual for these times on actual alignment, which is not really, maybe that was my intention, but I'm not going to say that I'm an expert on practicing this. I just know deeply within myself that this is where we need to grow into. This is what we all are being asked to do. We are asking to regulate. We are being asked to regulate our nervous system. We are being asked to find ground. We are being asked to connect to a deeper power, whatever that is to you. This is a time of not relying on other people to give you that deeper power. It's not a time to be practicing just what you're told to practice. Plug in from your heart, feel that connection deep within yourself, and know that you don't need anyone else to help you connect to angels. Angels are flowing to you. Your soul self is divine itself. So let that version in. Be true to you on a whole scale. So we're being asked to be whole as ourselves. And within that, then we shine out. We create change. We become the helpers, but we're also being helped. And from that dynamic, too, sometimes in those off moments when when it feels too isolating and maybe too much to bear, look for the helpers and look at what's working. I believe that we're in a changing world, but I'm not filled with doom and gloom. I believe new times are coming, and I believe that old systems are struggling and being let go, but they kind of need to be. And that can be scary, it can be triggering, and quite frankly, there's elements of grief in there, which we will talk about in a different podcast because I don't want to talk about grief right now. But there's a grief in letting old things go, especially when we just want to live actually the life we came to live. But the truth is we all came at this time in the world. We chose to be the people we are right now. We chose to show up in this moment. And the truth is that there's part of each of us that even if we're just focusing on plugging in, connecting to our light, and then parenting our kids, or helping our parents, or helping a neighbor down the road, even if it's as simple as sending love to a friend over the internet, or if it's as easy as putting a food basket together, or even if it's just as simple as appreciating the world and looking around you and seeing that tree that sky, that bird, and appreciating it so that you feel at peace with yourself and you let that light out. It all helps. This is what we do. This is wholeness. This is holiness. And it's in that space that we can make the world the better place. And we can provide the light that the world needs. It doesn't need to be too big of head game. Rather than just choosing to regulate your nervous system, realign to love instead of fear, ground, plug in to that universal source, and shine out. We can all do it. All right. I'm taking a step away from my soapbox now. Back to my other things. But I want you to know that you're not in this alone. And if it is feeling too much, then by all means, feel free, just drop me a message. Make sure you join the Facebook group because a lot of things are happening over there and there's a lot of love flowing through to share. So that link is in the show notes. And if you do need anything, and if you want support in finding that way of regulating your nervous system and really shining out, helps right there. So feel free to drop me a message if that feels aligned. And otherwise, I look forward to sharing another podcast with you next week. So make sure that you subscribe and leave a review if that resonates too. Sending all my love and light, everyone. Bye now.